A production of the South Carolina Educational Television Network.
Good evening and welcome to this edition of Carolina Journal. The South Carolina State Senate was an all-white body. There have been no blacks in the upper chamber since Reconstruction. The state of South Carolina, however, is made up of blacks, whites, and a few other minorities. There has been an outcry in recent years about Black South Carolinians not being represented in the Senate. That led to the Senate redrawing its district lines in order to give a black a good chance to win a seat in the upper chamber. Before this new map was drawn, however, the Reverend I.D. Newman was elected to the Senate from a district that had a white majority. His was a unique election, one that brought a great deal of happiness to those around the state who wanted to see all people represented in the powerful Senate. Before we meet Senator Newman tonight, Pete Poore has some information that will introduce you to him.
Senator DeQuincey Newman represents a district located in Richland, Chester, and Fairfield Counties. This seat was vacated by Alex Sanders, now Chief Justice of the newly installed Appeals Court. The unexpired term that Senator Newman has been elected to will run out with the November '84 elections. In ceremonies in the Senate chamber on this past November 4th, DeQuincey Newman was sworn in as a member of that body, the first black to hold a Senate seat in 95 years.
Exercise the duties of the office to which I have been elected.
To exercise the duties of the office to which I have been elected.
And that I will.
And that I will.
To the best of my ability.
To the best of my ability.
Discharge the duties thereof.
Discharge the duties thereof.
And preserve, protect, and defend.
And preserve, protect, and defend.
The Constitution of this state and of the United States.
The Constitution of this state and of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Senator Newman is a retired minister in the United Methodist Church. He pastored churches all over the state during his career. He was educated in the Williamsburg County Public Schools and at Claflin College, Clark College in Orangeburg, and the Gammon Theological Seminary in Atlanta. He holds honorary degrees from Morris College and Wofford College. During the 1960s, Senator Newman served as the South Carolina NAACP Field Director. He was the chief strategist for most civil rights activities in South Carolina, which led to public school desegregation, voting rights, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and implementation of the federal food stamp program. It is important to note that in addition to being the first black elected to the South Carolina Senate in nearly 100 years, Senator Newman was elected prior to the implementation of the Senate reapportionment plan, creating some 9 black majority districts. Senator Newman was voted into office in a district with a white majority. For Carolina Journal, this is Pete Poore reporting.
And Senator I.D. Newman is with us tonight on Carolina Journal. Welcome once again. It's good to see you again, Senator.
Thank you, Ms. Doran.
First time as Senator, though.
Yes.
Last time it was as Reverend.
Right.
Let me start by asking you, there's a great hullabaloo, as we've heard in the report, it's been in all of the news, that Senator Newman won from a district that had a majority white population, and he won before the maps were redrawn in the Senate so that this would be an all-black district or a district that would have a majority of blacks in it. What significance does that have in your opinion?
I think that this turn of events is highly significant in that it is an indication that in Columbia you now have a good-sized body of citizens who do not put a high priority on race, but who rather look at qualifications when it comes to choosing public officials. I think that Columbia is out front. Hopefully other sections of the state are going to catch up with Columbia.
Again, as has been reported in all of the news, you are the first black person to be elected to the Senate in some 95 years. What changed the mood of the electorate, do you think? You have worked very hard to see some of these changes brought about. What changed the mood so that people did vote for you and did put you in the Senate?
I think there are a number of factors that contributed to the change in the mood of the people, particularly in Senate District 7, which comprises Chester, Fairfield, and Richland counties. I think that people are more aware now of what is happening on a worldwide scale. And of course we tend to compare ourselves with people in other states and in other countries. Recently a woman was elected Prime Minister of England, and a black man was elected mayor of Chicago, and a black astronaut now has orbited the moon, has been out in space, so that we are not as narrow-minded now. I think this has had these gains have had a spin-off effect upon the people of South Carolina, so that we think a little more broadly now than we once did.
When you've traveled throughout South Carolina, your district, as you said, is Chester, Fairfield, and Richland counties. But when you have traveled in your other capacities, working with older citizens and some of the other activities that you are active in, do you think that the attitudes have changed in other areas of the state as well as in your particular district, so that a black may be elected, other blacks may be elected to the Senate?
Well, I think of how well I was received by the voters in Chester County. I'm not sure that I carried Chester, but the vote was very, very close. But I will say that one of the best all-around democratic type rallies that I was involved in for the duration of the campaign was held at Chester State Park, at which time people from all walks of life, white and black, about 50% white, 50% black, were present to welcome me there, including the circuit solicitor, the sheriff, the board of supervisors, their wives, a local judge. It was something that I had not seen in South Carolina anywhere, such unanimity among courthouse officials as was demonstrated in Chester that night. Then I returned to Chester for the Christmas parade, while many of the white adults gave me some glassy stares as the parade proceeded. The youth and the little children, white, almost wrung their wrists off, waving at the new black senator in South Carolina.
Well, you've traveled a long road to get here, haven't you?
Yes, quite a ways. Yeah. I've never had any idea, never entertained the idea that there would ever be black elected officials in South Carolina in my lifetime, although I worked hard to bring such a turn of events to pass. But it was largely work done in faith that it would happen one day, but I had no idea that it was going to happen in my lifetime, much less being one of the elected public officials myself.
The new plan, the new Senate reapportionment plan will have what is called 9 black majority districts, at least 9 districts where a black person will have a better chance at being elected to the Senate. Do you think this is a good plan? You've seen it, you've studied it. What do you think of the plan?
I think the plan leaves some things to be desired, but I believe that under the circumstances it was about the best that we could get. I would be surprised, however, that under the plan, if we are able to elect more than 5 in 1984. Maybe not as many as 5 in 1984. But eventually, I should think, and in time, and perhaps even in the foreseeable future, we're going to be able to elect people to office not on the basis of race, not on the basis of legislative reapportionment, but on the basis of one's ability and on the basis of other factors that would be involved.
Well, that's certainly the idealistic,
Yes.
That's what you would like to see happen.
Right. Yes.
We interviewed several people, citizens in South Carolina, and asked them what they thought was significant about Senator I.D. Newman being elected. And let's take a look at what some South Carolinians have to say.
Well, simply for the fact because he is the first black to be elected, you know, that's a big step for us as a whole.
I think it's very good. I think it's a wonderful thing, and I really feel like he will be an asset.
Well, I think it's going to help the state of South Carolina. I was glad to see that, you know, they did elect finally a black senator to the state of South Carolina. And the turning point will be to see when a second black senator would be elected.
It's going to bring on some different opinions, you know, of what he thinks. It's going to be a great importance, I think.
Really, I don't think it's really that significant. The person, he's a good man. Whether he's black or white really should not matter that much.
That's just a little forerunner, dividing up the districts and so forth. There'll be some more elected this next go-around.
DeQuincey Newman was recently elected to the South Carolina State Senate. What do you think the significance of that is?
I don't know if he's going to do a good job or not. I really don't, because I guess he was just elected because of his race. And people say, well, maybe we need somebody black in office. But I feel that you should be qualified not because of your color, but because of your qualifications in the office. So I don't know.
Are you saying he's unqualified?
Probably so.
Things are getting better, I guess. Maybe it's a step ahead instead of backwards.
Oh, I think it was extremely significant to have a black on the Senate. And, you know, I'm sure he's one of many to come. I think that's good.
I think it's very significant, especially in the South. I think it's definitely a good step for racial biases to come to an end.
I think there should be more blacks, there should be more women, there should be more minorities involved in everything, because it's the people that do the job, not the color, or the background, or the heritage.
It's been a long time coming, you know, the people pulled together and voted for him, in which I think, you know, was a good thing, you know, to have somebody, black representation in the Senate, you know, at this present time.
Okay, back in the studio now. Senator Newman, we've spent a great deal of time tonight at least talking about the fact that you are in the Senate, and that's a fact now. Let's move forward and talk about some of the issues that probably will be confronting you shortly after you start in the session, the second week in January. One of the biggest issues will be the governor's education package. You have publicly said you support this package. It will require a great deal of money. The governor is asking that there be an increase in the sales tax. Some critics of this plan, though, are saying that they don't want a sales tax. Most people want the plan, they don't want the sales tax. What other alternatives are there for funding for $210 million, I think it is?
Yes, no one has come up as yet with a viable alternative to the 1% increase in the sales tax. If and when such does occur, I think that whatever the proposal is should receive due consideration from the members of the General Assembly. However, the only proposition that we have available to us now for defraying the cost of upgrading education at all levels is the 1% sales tax. And of course, I, for one, am highly in favor of the 1% sales tax for the purpose, solely for the purpose of upgrading education. For a long, long time, there has been a strong undercurrent of resentment in South Carolina toward schools, turning out blockheads. After 12 years in school, altogether, too many graduates aren't able to read fluently nor write legibly, not to speak of interpreting the written word. So that young men and women who have a high school diploma have failed to pass simple tests when it comes to getting ready for the job market. And I think this is a disgrace on South Carolina. And such a condition has brought us down to the very bottom. Of the 50 states, South Carolina spends less per pupil for education than any other state. I believe that the vast majority of the people of South Carolina want to see an improvement in this condition. It will interest you to know that I'm beginning to get a good deal of mail regarding the governor's education package and the 1% raise in the school taxes. And the mail that I'm getting is running 20 to 1 in favor of the education package. And I think that is going to be clearly indicated before long that there is a tremendous groundswell of grassroots support for the sales tax. Now, those who are under obligation, those who fraternize with and attend the same churches, the same country clubs as the supporters of private schools, might be afraid of offending their friends by coming out in support of the sales tax. They will discover that there are more people, far by far, who favor the 1% sales tax solely for the purpose of upgrading education at all levels than there are those who are against it.
And yet there are critics who say we don't mind a 1-cent sales tax as long as you can guarantee us that we are going to see some improvements. We're going to see a test score improvements in our students. We're going to see qualified teachers in the classroom and the unqualified teachers out of the classroom. Do you think this plan, can we guarantee, can the government guarantee that they will see improvements if they approve this 1-cent sales tax?
Well, now the people who will administer the program are not perfect. The people in the State Department of Education work for us. They are our employees. We put them where they are. We are depending on them to do a good job. And if they don't produce, if they don't come up with a good plan, and if we don't see a significant difference for the better in education, then we fire them like we would any other unproductive employee and get someone who can do the job. But I'm thinking, however, that our state education department, our school boards, our superintendents, and overwhelming majority of school officials, including faculties, are sensitive to the shortcomings of our educational system, and that we will be able to depend on them to do the job that we want them to do.
Let's move on to another issue that I know that you're familiar with. I think education, though, one last thing is, do you think that's probably going to be one of the biggest issues before the General Assembly this year, getting that package through, and the discussion about education and the students' test scores?
I'm of the opinion that this is the #1 issue facing the General Conference in 1980, the General Assembly in 1984. Yes.
Okay. You were also a member of the South Carolina Advisory Council on Older Americans. In South Carolina, we have recently done a show here at ETV on nutrition and the elderly, exercise in the elderly, and did something on Meals on Wheels. How overall would you assess the status of older South Carolinians? How are they faring now, 1983?
Not so well. Unfortunately, agencies who administer programs for the aging have difficulty getting people to respond to the call for volunteers. The agencies that are dealing with problems of the aging are doing a magnificent job, but they're doing so under tremendous handicaps, such a shortage of manpower. Help is needed.
Volunteers?
Volunteers are needed. There are so many elderly people in the city and all over the state, for that matter, who are alone and with no one to help them. And it's a terrible kind of thing. And it is indeed a reflection on us as a citizenry that the welfare of the elderly of South Carolina, especially the elderly poor, is in such a bad state.
The economy, they say, the experts say, the economy is improving now, that people are spending their money, things are looking up. Is this, do the elderly feel this? Are they feeling this improvement?
No, the elderly does not feel this improvement. If indeed the economy is improving, we're getting notices that our Medicare insurance premiums are going up. I'm one of those who are on fixed income, a Social Security recipient. While I'm fortunate enough to have a situation a little better than a great many, nevertheless, all of us, nearly all of we senior citizens, are feeling the pinch. And if there is improvement in the economy, it isn't where we can tell it. Yeah.
Well, they tell us that there's an improvement in the economy, and I guess we, a lot of the way the economy either improves or doesn't improve is by what we think,
right.
At least how we behave. Yes. Years ago, you were, not years ago, but about 2 years ago, you were here on ETV, and we talked about the elderly, and we talked about the situation in rural areas, how people coped with the problems, particularly of things like running water, of poverty. Again, how would you assess any progress that has been made in the 2 years since we've seen you in those areas?
Yes, there's been tremendous progress made in the area, particularly the area of water, potable water, good drinking water for people in rural areas. Running water. I was talking with the director of the Governor's Office of Rural Development the other day, and I believe he told me that something in the rise of over $2 million flowed through the Governor's Office this past year to help improve the availability of running water to people in rural areas. So the situation has greatly improved. There's much yet to be done, but there has been significant improvement.
I don't know if you saw the news. I'm sure you've probably read in the news of one of President Reagan's advisors, Mr. Meese, who suggested that he didn't think people were really hungry in the United States. And I guess my question to you is, are there people in South Carolina who are really hungry?
Yes, indeed.
Why are they hungry?
They don't have the wherewithal to buy the food. wages, or any number of families are having to subsist on minimum wage, out of which they have to buy groceries, pay rent, buy clothing. That's all they've got. This is their only visible means of support. And then there are the elderly, whose incomes are limited, fixed. Then there are the other, then there are the unemployed people on welfare. Hundreds of thousands, or tens of thousands rather, of people in South Carolina go to bed hungry at night and with no prospect of breakfast in the morning.
What is happening with the food stamp program?
The food stamp program is not sufficient to provide food for people from the beginning of the month to the end of the month. Just isn't sufficient. And then they take into consideration the high cost of food.
So what would you say needs to be done?
I wished I had
That's
the
an easy
answer.
question.
Yeah.
I know that I asked you a very complex
Yes.
question in a short period of time.
Right, and I'm afraid that my answer would be entirely inadequate. Maybe it's best that I not attempt to answer it in a few words.
We don't have much time left, but throughout the state, hospitals, and here in Richland County, that's been a problem that I wanted to ask you briefly about, and that is hospitals are turning people away who cannot afford to pay for their care. These hospitals are saying they can no longer afford to pay for the care of indigents, of those who cannot pay them. This is happening throughout South Carolina. What's the solution going to be there? Do we need more county money in these hospitals, such as in Charleston and Greenville and Columbia? How can we see that people without money are cared for without pushing the hospitals into bankruptcy, so to speak?
I think we're going to have to come
We have about 30 seconds.
We're going to have to come to a catastrophic health insurance plan so that hospitals will be able to collect their bills, and so that those who need health care will be able to purchase it. They can't do it on their own, but there needs to be some kind of insurance program.
Okay. Senator Newman, nice to see you again. We'll see you when the General Assembly starts.
Thank you.
2nd of January. We'll be back again tomorrow night, and we'll see you then. Good night, and have a good evening.